guys, welcome to my exclusive podcast and YouTube series where I'm going to be talking about why you should never start a fucking podcast, presentation, or literally anything like that. Like, I'm sorry, do you even want to be here? Do you even know what you're talking about? Do you even believe in what you're talking about? Are you confident in what you are saying right now? Are you just copying what someone else said, what ChatGPT told you to do, what you think would work? I don't really think you even believe in what you're saying, or you really even know what you're talking about when you start something like that. It doesn't sound like I'm confident in what I'm saying. Therefore, no one else is going to be confident in what I'm saying. Our subconscious perceives all of that within 2 seconds, if not less, of someone speaking. When we're scrolling through content, we can just sense, does this person know what they're talking about? Is this worth my time? Do I care about what they're saying? Do I value what they're saying? Our subconscious, all those questions that I just asked, that's what our brain is thinking subconsciously. The second we see someone on our feed, the second we see someone in content, what they're talking about, how they're talking, we are filtering all those questions and being like, do I want to skip or do I want to stay? And when I first started this episode and I was talking all timidly and all shy and all quiet and all like trying to be perfect, you guys were probably all perceiving those things about me, saying, oh my God, this is going to be terrible. I can't listen to this for another 20 minutes. What the heck is this about? Within the first few seconds of me starting this video, your subconscious, you already coded me as an authority or not, as confident or not, as exciting to listen to or not, as something worth your time or not. Which is why I had to be real quick to turn it from, hi guys, to big and loud just to prove a point. And lucky for me, I know how pattern interrupts work in our subconscious, so hopefully I turned that around quick enough for you to still be here listening, for your subconscious to be able to recode me as someone who's very excited about what we're about to get into. Okay, so now that I have your attention, let's run it back and let me re-welcome you to my exclusive podcast and YouTube series, Going Viral is an Inside Job. And honestly, welcome you to my YouTube channel and my podcast channel in general, because this is how we are kicking things off over here. So here we are. And you're probably still wondering, okay, Kate, so I think you did a keynote and you were doing this whole marketing campaign talking about an album drop, and now here we are on like a podcast and YouTube channel. Was this the whole album drop thing? Like, is this a normal podcast, a normal YouTube video? Is this just your keynote in podcast form? Like, what exactly is going on here? I still don't fully understand. I'm so glad you asked. I want to get you all up to speed on what's happening behind the scenes right now that led to this podcast, this YouTube channel, this album drop. Like, what are we doing here? So let me give you a behind the scenes look at the creative genius, if I do say so myself, that I've been tapping into over here and why we're here, why we're doing this, what this is all about right now. So when this episode releases, I will have just dropped my keynote, Going Viral is an Inside Job, which is all about becoming the person who just naturally goes viral. Not some strategies, not some copy and paste hooks, just fully embodying that celebrity, fame, magnetic energy. And that is what we're going to get into a lot in this entire series. But before we do, I have to just tell you what's going on here, right? So before this keynote came about, I had been investing a lot of time, energy, and effort into growing my speaking career, creating a speaker reel, a landing page for people to book events, doing outreach, like refining my processes, like all these things. I'd been creating a training regimen, like a practice regimen where I was sprinting, doing arm workouts, because when I'm holding that mic, my arm is going to look nice and toned and I'm not going to be out of breath. Like, I got to get the cardio up. I was doing I'd have ChatGPT give me a prompt, be like, okay, give me a random prompt that might be at a motivational event, a conference, a business conference, whatever. And then I would just have to like wing it and rip it for 10 minutes in my basement and just like give a speech right then and there to really practice this muscle of just speaking, which obviously I do a lot of content, but just like really leaning more into the motivational side, because one of my big goals right now, or one of my big goals in general, is becoming a household name motivational speaker. So these are all big goals that I had been setting for myself. These are all big goals that I have for myself right now. And I just have this like knowing that I am going to thrive like on stage with a mic in my hand. Maybe it's because my karaoke career has gone so well so far. Maybe that's, where I'm getting that feeling from, but I feel like it's for something bigger than that. And so anyway, my speaking career was just something that I was putting a lot of focus into. I wanted to become a bigger part of my career, but obviously I was like, okay, if I'm doing all of these in-person events, like, you guys, my community online, like, you guys are what allow me to do what I do and allow me to do what I love and allow me to coach and to share my thoughts. And like, if there was no one to sit here and talk to, what good would that do, right? So I was thinking, okay, if I'm doing a lot more in-person events, what is a way that I can bring my community with me still and make them feel a part of something, even if I'm doing these things in person and not necessarily online? So I asked my subconscious, I was like, okay, I asked myself this question. I was like, how can I bring my community along the ride? How can I make this still just as valuable for them, right? Like, I could post, the highlight reel. I could post behind the scenes of me, like, traveling to these things, and, like, that'd be cool and maybe inspirational and maybe, like, oh, Kate's doing some cool shit. Like, sure. But how do I really, really make sure that you guys are getting the same value from these things? And so I asked myself this question, and a lot of times I will ask myself a question, like when I'm doing a creative task, I make sure to give myself a few days or a week or like time. Like, I can't just sit down and be like, okay, I have to come up with a cover art idea. I have to come up with this like big grand marketing plan or answer. I'm not gonna, I'll set the task, but most of the time I don't immediately come up with it. Most of the time I ask myself the question and I give myself, my subconscious, a few days to just kind of like marinate on it. And then like a few days later, it's like, boom, lightning bolt, like light bulb idea. And so this is exactly what happened. I asked myself, how can I make these keynotes, my speaking career, how can I make this just as valuable for my community, for people online who maybe can't come to the events? Because again, you guys are why I'm able to do what I do, and I like would want to bring you along anywhere I can go in any way I can. So I asked myself this question, long story short, and I was on the plane home from Tampa when I was there a few weeks ago, and I was like falling asleep, so my mind was kind of like calm. It was in this like in and out of consciousness state, and I just had this download and it hit me. Drop keynotes like they're albums. And I was like, oh, okay, like this is exciting. I love this because it allows me to be creative. Like, I could make a sick cover. Like, I could just like make this a really cool like marketing concept. Like, this is great. And at first when I had this idea, it was just like kind of a cute marketing thing where I was like, oh, this will be so cute to like make each keynote like an era, and it'll allow me to evolve, and I can like focus content on this for right now, but then when I do the next keynote, like I can focus it on that, blah, blah, blah. And so it started really just as like, this would be cute and cool and like let me be creative. But then I was like, okay. And I woke up and I wrote it down in my notes app, and then I like went back and I was like drifting back asleep. And then the next idea came to me, and it was like, oh my gosh, but the album is actually gonna be a podcast series and YouTube series, and the tracks on the album, the track list, are gonna be these exclusive episodes, and then I can do this for every keynote I have. Obviously, when I'm doing a keynote, I have, like 30 minutes to an hour to talk, like a workshop, whatever, and I can talk for a long freaking time if you guys haven't caught on yet. Like, the things that I like bring to keynote, like there's times where I've made workshop decks and I go to rehearse it and it takes me an hour to get through like the first 4 slides, and it's like I'm trying to boil the ocean with one speaking moment. And I was like, oh my gosh, having an exclusive podcast YouTube series to allow me to like dive deep into each point, each element that I bring up in a keynote, that's genius, because number one, anyone who wasn't able to go to the keynote or wasn't able to be at the event can still get all the value, can still know what I was talking about, what I was delivering. But also, anyone who was at the event, now I can talk for like 10 hours and people can get all this value, and I can go into detail and have like no timer on me and just do whatever I want, talk about whatever I want. So I was like, oh my gosh, it's not just a cute marketing strategy. It's going to be like this way to just bring so much more value to people who were in the room, people who couldn't be to the room, for me to just really dive into these points that I bring up in each workshop I do or keynotes that I do. And I also want to break down really the timeline for how I brought this to fruition, like how I took this idea, this download that I got, and like brought it into a real life manifestation. because I have a point to make here. So like I said, I asked myself the question a few days before I got the idea. And then Wednesday night when I was flying home was when the idea hit me. Just for perspective, I had the cover shot edited, ready to post by Sunday night. And the point that I want to make here is that when you get these creative ideas, when you get these downloads, do not sit around and wait on them. I could have sat here and been like, is this a good idea? Is this stupid? Are people going to understand it? Is this going to make any sense? No one else does this, blah, blah, blah. And I could have gave myself 101 reasons not to do it, 1,000, 1,000,001 reasons not to do it. And all these reasons of like, oh, well, maybe it won't work, or maybe this like isn't going to go well, da, da, da. And by the time I would have gotten to the list of trying to guess what could have gone wrong or what I should do instead or what could happen and blah, 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 I could have already had it done, had it released, had it like gotten the data, gotten the feedback of like, did this go well? What could I do better next time? So my point is, do not let yourself wait long enough to where you talk yourself out of implementing the creative ideas you get. When you get a download, and this comes too with like learning to trust yourself and learning to trust the ideas you get are divine. And like when you do task yourself or your subconscious with a question, like do this, give yourself time before you need to actually figure it out or implement it or finalize something. Give yourself time. Just ask yourself this question, how can I do XYZ? What's a great genius way to do XYZ? How can I accomplish this goal that I have? And then give yourself a few days, give yourself time to like relax, daydream, meditate, do whatever to allow the answer to come to you. And when the answer does come to you, trust it. When you get that light bulb moment, go for it. Like, do not wait and sit around trying to figure out, is this a good idea? Have people done this? Does this make sense? Like, especially when it comes to creative things like marketing, like obviously if you're changing your entire business, maybe, just do a little logistical thinking, but especially with creative thinking and creative plans and ideas and things that it's just like, okay, I could just test this. And by the time I just go for it, like if I just get the idea, implement it and go for it and see what happens, like in that time where most people would sit and wait and contemplate and try to figure out all the things that could go wrong, you could have already done it and executed it and got the feedback as the data to see what actually went wrong or what actually went right and what you want to keep for next time, what you want to change for next time. So I bring that up because there have been so many things in my career where I have just gotten this idea and then boom, it's done in like the next week. And so I bring that up like not to flex. I mean, yeah, like that's great that I can, be productive like that, but I didn't always used to be productive like that. I've had to learn to trust myself when I get these ideas, like go for it. And it's not as difficult as your brain wants to create this resistance around doing. And if you give yourself the time to contemplate and sit there and think about it, like then of course you're going to convince yourself it's a bad idea. Of course you're going to convince yourself like, maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe I should just, be normal and keep doing what I'm doing. But I'm telling you, when you get these ideas, listen to them. They're being brought to you, channeled to you for a reason. So bringing it back to the keynote now. This is a keynote. This is a workshop. This is going to be a series that is all about becoming the person who goes viral. Not figuring out how to go viral, not figuring out what strategy, what copy and paste template makes the most sense, how you go viral, what elements you need to include in your content. No, it's about becoming the person who goes viral, the person who isn't afraid to be seen, the person who can show up authentically as themselves, the person who trusts themselves to take these creative risks. They trust themselves, their intuition, their authenticity to show up authentically. They can be themselves. They're confident in who they are and how they do things, their personality, their quirks, their things about them that make them them. They are confident in showing up and showing that online and letting those parts of themselves be seen. And that is what we all can click into, we all perceive. They're not afraid to take action. They're not afraid to be seen trying. They're not afraid to do things differently. And when you can show up authentically like that, when you can trust and believe in yourself, the way you do things and who you are, your quirks, your things that make you you, and you can portray that in your content, That is what makes you magnetic. People sense, people can perceive authenticity. And when someone is showing up fully as themselves, we want to be a part of that because we all have a subconscious desire to also be accepted as ourselves. So when someone is showing up as themselves, we're like, oh my gosh, I need to take a note from your book because I can feel that you are being yourself right now, that you are doing what you love right now, and I want to do the same. So that's why we are intrigued, we follow, we like, people go viral who can express themselves truly, authentically as who they are and aren't afraid to be seen as who they are. So that is what this keynote, this series is all about. And the beautiful thing about this keynote and this idea that I had for how to share this, how to create more value from this, is that it's kind of like an inception moment of itself where, yes, this keynote was going to be about all these other things that I've done and ways that I've embodied, you know, going viral on TikTok or growing a following and all these things in a few months. But now the beautiful thing is this is kind of like an inception and proof point of itself, where the marketing strategy that I've created to enhance the value behind this is really living proof of everything I'm talking about here, of trusting these creative pulls, of trusting yourself, of being yourself, of doing things differently, of showing up like you're a big deal before the world ever sees you as a big deal, because that is what is necessary to make you go viral, to make the world see you in a certain way. You have to see yourself that way first. And that is what this is all about, is you being the one to trust yourself to show up a certain way and seeing the world catch on from there. So this podcast series, this YouTube series, is a direct result of what happens, a direct manifestation of what happens when you use the principles that I talk about in my keynote, Going Viral is an Inside Job. This is the result of it. So my first order of business with these new platforms, with this exclusive series, is to bring you a 13-part exclusive series that is going to deep dive into every element from my keynote, Going Viral is an Inside Job, because I seriously could talk about this stuff for days, not just like a 60 minute workshop, clearly, hence the 13-part podcast episode to expand on one keynote. Here we are. And so to bring this episode full circle and to really start to immerse you in the keynote experience, I started this podcast episode the same way I started my keynote, where I am sounding shy. I'm sounding like I'm doing what ChatGPT told me if I said, how should I start a podcast? How should I start a keynote? Like, it said, oh, introduce yourself or say this, or like, I started it like I wasn't being myself. Like I was going to talk about what someone else told me to talk about, what someone else told me to do. And then I said, screw that. We're not doing that. That does not work. That does not create magnetism between people. That doesn't show authority, authenticity, creativity. That does not equal going viral. So the first lesson of business in this series is that shift that you noticed in my energy from when I went from, timid and shy and saying what someone else probably told me to say, to just being myself, owning what I'm talking about whatever the heck I want to talk about. That difference in your perception of me, that difference in my energy there, that is the first lesson. I didn't want to just tell you, be yourself, okay? Like talk about even that, you'd be like, okay, Kate, like be yourself. You're not even being yourself here. Like, what are we really talking about? I wanted you to feel the difference. I wanted to give you an example of what the difference is, how it affects your perception of me, how it affects the perception of the people that you are watching on social media. If you can sense the difference in perception between the way I started this and the way I am now going with all of these things, I just showed you exactly how our perception of other people and other forms of content works. And within just a few seconds, you establish your perception of someone. You decide, is this person worth listening to? Is this person worth following? Is this someone I even care to listen to talk for however long? And you can tell when someone isn't being themselves. You can tell when someone's just copy and pasting a hook that they saw in another content creator's video that said, oh, this is the best hook to go viral, so use this and say this. And they're like, and it's just like, you can tell, So the same way you notice the difference in your perception of me, how I started this versus how I'm doing it now, you need to know that everyone perceives every form of content, every single video they see on TikTok, on Instagram, wherever, they perceive that the same way. They have the same triggers go on, the same filters come on. It's like, do I trust this person? Do I want to listen to them? Do I, think they're being authentic? Do I think they're an authority? Do I think they care about what they're talking about? And we all perceive these things subconsciously. So I want you to know that you have permission to play outside the lines. You do not have to start every video with the proven hooks that everyone else talks about. If you are being creative, if you are being yourself, that energy is subconsciously perceived more than we would ever consciously understand a hook. So when you're creating your content, when you're starting something, allow yourself to be creative. Allow yourself to do things the way you want to do them. Because sure, I could have started this video, I could have started my keynote with saying, okay, hey guys, like this is how you're gonna learn how to go viral in 1 month and blah, blah, blah. And like, yeah, I'm sure you probably still would be like, okay, yeah, like I'm interested in that. Like that's cool. But the energy that you would have felt from me would have been different. You would have still perceived me as different than if I show up and I'm being creative and authentic and true to myself and doing something weird that I want to do just because I want to do it and prove a point. And this is my way of doing things. It doesn't matter how we start things. Everyone can sense our energy right away. So do whatever you need to do to make sure that your energy is being perceived authentically, that you feel confident showing up. And this whole series, we are getting into step-by-step how to do this. What are the secrets? What are the hacks? What can you do to enhance your authenticity, your authority, your confidence in showing up as yourself, as being seen as who you really are, as making sure that that essence that makes you you can be perceived within a few seconds of every video, that everyone can really feel like they are getting to know you, because that is what is going to make you go viral. I could sit here and I could say, oh, use this hook. This hook got me 1 million views. This hook. Someone could use the same hook that someone who got 1 million views did, but if the 1 million views person who used that hook was doing so authentically and that was just who they were and what they were saying and like that was just what they wanted to say for the day, that energy is what made them go viral, not the hook. That's why you have people who can copy and paste a hook or say the exact same thing someone else said in a video, but it's not perceived the same way. It's the energy that creates the magnetism. It's the energy of being you and showing up and feeling and believing in yourself that creates virality. So that is what this whole series is about. It's going to be helping you, walking you step by step through how to become the person who goes viral, the person who naturally shows up authentically, the person who feels safe being themselves and having that version of themselves seen on a large scale, the version of yourself who trusts her creativity, her intuition to take risks, to try something new, to show up in a way that no one else has showed up before, and is certain enough to know that the result that you want is inevitable. And to make sure you get the full transformation out of this information, to make sure you actually apply this, you actually understand how this is working for you. At the end of every episode, I'm going to coach you through a piece, a question, a tool to unpack whatever we talk about in this series, whatever we talk about in the episode today. And I have also created a journal that you can go download. The link is going to be in my bio. I'll also link it below in any of the episode notes. But it's going to be a journal that you can customize, you can fill out, you can write in. It has all the questions, the templates, anything you need, space to fill out, whatever. That's going to walk you through all of this step by step and make sure that you're not just listening, but you're implementing this for you so that you can see results in your own content, that you can see yourself show up in this way. So number one, go get the journal if you haven't already gotten the journal. I'll make sure to link that below. The link will be in my bio. I'll make sure that you know where it is. But the first order of business to make sure we are kicking this all off in the right way, I need you to outline what your goal is right now for your content, for your social media accounts. Is it to grow a following? Is it to get more brand collabs, more deals? Is it to get more clients? Is it to just start posting more consistently? Is it just to start showing up more authentically and not have it feel like such a, curated, hard task that you have to do all the time? What is your goal for your content right now? That is the first thing I want you to outline and get specific, right? Maybe it's a combination of all these things. Maybe it's I want to show up more authentically and I want to gain X amount of followers, or I want to hit this number of followers on TikTok or on Instagram or on LinkedIn, whatever it is. I want to reach out to this many people a day. I want to make sure that I'm sharing this type of content more, being myself more. I need you to get specific, sit with yourself and just think about this after this episode. what are my goals? Like what do I think would make me more successful in my content game right now? What do I think would make me more successful in my business if I could do XYZ in content or through content? Really identify what your goals are for yourself, for your content right now. That is going to be step number 1. So go grab the journal, go write down what your goals are so that we know moving forward, moving into the next episodes, and how we're going to really enhance these parts of yourself so that you can become the version of you who just is viral. We know what goal we're working towards. So you're aware of what parts of yourself you need to free, you need to unleash to make that happen. So stay tuned. Episode 2 is dropping tomorrow. We are doing this Love Island style where we're on like every single night of the week. We are going to be working through this for all 13 parts of this series. So tomorrow's episode, we are going to be talking all about how you are going to guarantee that you stand out in your content, that you stand out amongst the however many other people are out here creating content, that you are the one that stands out. You are about to get your value handed to you so hard that there is not a chance that you will not stand out once you realize these things about yourself, how content works, how you work, how all of these things work together. Game over. So stay tuned for part 2.